Hi, Zoom leaders. Today we're going to talk about a topic that's not so great, but important. It's handling Zoom bombers and RI meetings. Today's agenda is going to cover what is Zoom bombing, the importance of that Zoom host control for security features, setting up your meeting to help control a Zoom bombing situation, and ways to handle the situation if it actually happens. And then afterward, dealing with the startle and what happens when the meeting concludes. So we're going to start by what is Zoom bombing? Zoom bombing is actually a form of cyber harassment. Someone might join your meeting with the intent of being disruptive. They are uninvited. This is usually someone new as well. Their behaviors may include a number of things, including showing inappropriate content or images or sexual content, making disruptive noises or communicating with people in the chat, even making threats and using profanity. This is a bully who's doing this. And we know that bullies like to be powerful and they like to be aggressive. And we also know that we reinforce bullies when we give that a lot of attention. So our goal here is to really shut down this behavior quickly, as soon as possible, so our meeting can resume. So what a Zoom bomber is not, it's a little different. So this is someone who might be joining your meeting, but perhaps unintentionally, they might be inconsiderate or rude. Maybe they're jumping in and asking questions. They don't know our meeting guidelines yet. So they just might think this is a typical peer support meeting where they can share advice, and they just really don't have experience with RI yet, but they're willing to learn. It could be that their behavior is also challenging in other ways. For instance, they're walking around a room, they don't turn off their video. So, there's a lot of movement, but again, they're not showing um, inappropriate content. They're just uh, not abiding by our rules and guidelines. So crosstalk or interrupting, again, they just might not know how our meeting works yet. So this is a very important thing. To minimize the disruption, you must gain host control of your meeting. So if you're a leader or you have an assistant leader, whoever that tech person might be, someone needs to start the meeting through the Zoom account. So if you're using the RI Zoom platform, that access information was provided by RI staff to log in. If you're using the Share platform out in Los Angeles, that access information was provided by Share. And if you're using a personal Zoom account, then go to the website, get to Zoom, and log into your account to start that meeting. That's the way you're going to have host control, okay? And there's a picture here to the side. The reason I'm showing that is because that's how you know you have host control. If you've ever gone and kind of floated over those three dots in someone's photo or image, then all of these options come up when you have host control. And when you don't have host control, all you're going to see is the ability to unmute yourself or start your video and rename yourself. I mean, your features are very limited. So you want to make sure that you're seeing all of these options. Here's another important thing to consider is getting help for your meeting, getting an assistant, getting someone who could be those extra set of eyes and could help you manage the technology if something actually happens. A tech aide doesn't necessarily have to have a role in the meeting. That person doesn't have to lead an example or, choose the reading. They could just be there for support of the technology end of things. And hopefully you have someone in your meeting who might be willing to step up to do that. If you do, let us know so we can make them an official tech aide and put them on our contact list for things like this that come up and additional trainings. So if you need a tech aid assistant or an assistant, please contact Hina at recoveryinternational.org. All right, so now you have host control and you have to become familiar with the lower toolbar. There's a number of icons here, and I just want to direct you to a few of them. So the chat one gives you the ability to change chat options. I'll show you that in a second. The share option also gives you the ability to share who could share their screen. You or your co-host really should be the only ones who can share screen. And then way at the end, you have a more button, which appears when I'm seeing this. You can click on that and get to whiteboards, or maybe it'll appear on your lower toolbar automatically. But that's another way people can kind of interrupt your meeting. So you want to change the controls on that too. But that one kind of in the middle, that host tools, are where the security features can be found. So we're going to concentrate a lot there. So setting the controls before the meeting, you can do that through the chat control. Like I said, if you click on those three little dots below where you'd normally type a message to people, it gives you some options. So I'm going to check that I only want messages to come through the host and the co-host. You might be fine letting everyone chat. Some people feel like this is crosstalk in a meeting, and crosstalk is part of our meeting guidelines. It's not allowed. I'm going to leave that up to the leaders to figure out. You can also limit the ability to share screen. So if you get to your share screen icon and you hit the little arrow up, you can see there's some choices here. If you're on the RI platform, these should already be locked. So it's only the host that can share the screen, and the host can allow the co-host to do that as well. But for other platforms, it could be that all participants are checked. So I recommend you change that to host only. Whiteboards, I mentioned if you don't see it on the lower toolbar, you can click the three dots and the more button. Of course, once I click whiteboards, then I see it on my lower toolbar during the meeting all the time. But there's ways that you could look at this and choose who can share a whiteboard as well. So let's go back to the host controls. This is where all of these menu options are. One thing that's important to do or set for your meeting is a waiting room. Typically, you'll start the meeting and people will start popping in. And with a waiting room, you will get this message. You'll see that at the bottom. Max has entered the waiting room for the meeting. And then you can click on admit. Or let him hang out there a few more minutes, you can decide. It's hard to figure out, if you have a waiting room, who do I let in? Because sometimes we do have new people who join meetings in recovery. Where this waiting room comes in handy is if you do have a Zoom bombing incident, this waiting room is already set and a Zoom bomber can't get back into your meeting. And at that point, it's just kind of locked up, so you wouldn't have any more issues. So that's where this comes in handy. You can also lock the meeting. The downside is you don't know who's trying to come in. So the lock the meeting just gives participants a message that says the meeting is locked, you can't enter. And if you're the host of that meeting, you might know that a participant runs a little bit late because they're rushing home from work, and you might allow that person in. Now, in recovery, we begin and end meetings on time, and Dr. Lowe stressed the importance of this discipline to get well. So, of course, if you're starting your meeting, you can say, you know what, after 10 minutes, I'm not going to let anyone else in because we're supposed to begin and end on time. I do have leaders that say, this is a problem with me. People are entering at my meeting at all times, and then they expect to give an example. So that's not really fair to the people who, of course, were there at the start and stay till the end. So here's more security options that I want you to become familiar with. The host tools on the bottom toolbar has many, many things that we've just talked about, so you could get to these in different ways. But the bottom one there is really important because this is the one that you would click on if you had a Zoom bombing issue, you want to suspend participant activities. So once that Zoom bombing occurs, try to stay calm and focus. The next move is very important. Stop sharing your screen if you are sharing slides, because that's the only way you're going to get to the host tools on the lower bar. I don't know why, but when you're sharing screen, that host tools icon goes away. So really important to stop sharing slides. You can get to that icon then and suspend the participant activities. All right, that's really important to do. Once the participant activities are suspended, that means no one can talk anymore. Screens are frozen. Participant screens go black. They can't see anything else happening. No one can enter the meeting. It's locked. If you're in a breakout room, that closes. People come right back. If you're recording the meeting, the video even pauses during that time. So suspend participant activities in red is your friend in this situation. And please know where that button is. Once you've suspended, now it gives you a time to think about your next move. You can remove a participant right from here. So if you were to click on remove a participant, a whole list of people in your meeting come up and you can choose who you need to remove. You can also, again, if your waiting room isn't enabled at that point, you can enable it, lock the meeting. You can do anything from this set of controls. So when you hit suspend all participant activities, this is what you're going to see. Everyone will be muted, video and screen sharing will be stopped, breakout rooms will be closed, Zoom apps disabled, the meeting is locked. So you hit suspend, because in case you hit it on accident, right, you didn't mean to, you can hit cancel, but hitting suspend and the report to Zoom is automatic. You can uncheck that, but we really don't know why you would uncheck it if you had a situation. Now, your participants can still hear you speaking. You are the host. They can hear you speaking. So my recommendation would be to make an announcement. I'm sorry, the meeting is suspended at this time. I know you can still hear me. Just give me a minute to get the meeting going again, fix the issue I'm having and get the meeting going again. Whatever you want to announce in a calm voice is going to be helpful because they can still hear it. Here is one way to remove a participant. Like I said, right above the suspend participant activities in red, you could do that from here. You can also do that by clicking the three dots in the image of their video, their picture, in the upper right-hand corner, and then just hit remove. Once removed, the same email cannot re-enter this meeting. Another way to remove a participant is by calling up the participant list at the bottom on the toolbar, and then everyone appears. And again, when you click over, you've got three dots that says, yeah, you can do a lot of things for this person, including removing them. So once you click remove, it's going to give you another, are you sure? Once removed, this person won't be able to rejoin again. So yes, click remove. And then it will ask you to do a report. Yes, we want you to do a report to Zoom if there's an offender, but you probably want to select, I'll tell you later, right? Because maybe you don't want to take the time to figure this out right now or look at all these options. And entering your email quickly will allow Zoom to contact you later. So what do you do now? Okay, the Zoom bomber is removed. Now what? So after you have removed, stop admitting people to your meeting, right? And if you've got your waiting room, you can do this easily. Or if it's locked out, of course, they're not coming back in. Simply leave people in the waiting room. You might want to send them a message through Zoom too. You can do that, that the meeting is now locked and you're sorry you won't be able to admit anyone again. The tricky part here is that a Zoom bomber may use multiple names and emails to try to sign back in. That's why we're saying don't let anyone else in. And if they were already in the meeting and you had a legitimate participant that always comes to your meeting named John Smith, they might have already picked up John Smith to rename themselves. So you'll see John Smith is in the waiting room, but John Smith is already in your meeting, okay? So they could really pick up on people who are legitimate people in your meeting. So how to resume the meeting at this point? So you're on the screen again under host tools. Just go ahead and check unmute themselves and start video and tell people they can unmute themselves and start their video, and we can resume the meeting, okay? So again, they can hear you talking this time, and they'll know that the meeting can begin again. All right, well, this is a big startle, and we know that. This isn't always trivial, depending on what they have come in to do to the meeting or what they've said, but know that whatever happened, this is all virtual, and no one is in any actual danger. So go ahead, take a few deep breaths. You might have participants, even yourself, that may feel shaken during this. Just assess what you need to do to go on with the meeting. Should the matter be addressed with the group? Did you catch it so quickly that you think maybe no one noticed, or maybe just a few people noticed? Was it enough that you could just move forward? And should you take a pause, take a few deep breaths, and maybe check to see if anyone's experiencing symptoms over this, and you need to do a round robin of some group spotting, or perhaps someone is willing to use it as an example. If you feel like you do need to end the meeting at that time, apologize to everyone, encourage them to find another meeting to attend. After the meeting, we do want you to report this issue to Zoom itself. So once you've removed that person, Zoom gives you the option to report them. You can complete the report after your meeting. Again, don't take the time during your meeting. They're going to send you a quick email with a link to report it. So this is what you would get from Zoom right away if you said, yes, I want to report this incident. So you could just click confirm the report. If for some reason you remove someone by accident, you don't want to report, there's an option for cancel the report here. We also want you to let us know what's going on. So please send an email to Steve and Hina at recoveryinternational.org. Provide just a little summary, right? The date and the time that it happened, the name of the offender, the Zoom username, if you knew it. It's just a quick summary of what happened and how it was handled, and if you'd like to be contacted for follow-up. This is also helpful because our other staff may be receiving messages from participants that this occurred. So now that you've seen what to do, here are some recommendations. Consider a practice meeting with your co-leader or assistant leader or your tech aide, even yourself, just to get familiar with these controls. If you have a Zoom account, set up a meeting that's just a fake meeting, start the meeting, and then just look at those controls and see where they're at. It's easier to practice and know where these controls are before you actually experience a Zoom bombing incident. Of course, you want to get some muscle memory here of stop sharing your slides, go to host tools, and suspend meeting. Those are the three things you need to do right away. Stop sharing slides, go to host tools, suspend your meeting, okay? We're going to offer some small group leader practice sessions in June, so look out for that email, and we'll allow you to be the host of a meeting and check those controls, see where they're at, and just give you a practice. There's also a reference sheet, a quick kind of checklist that you can print out and have next to you wherever you lead your meeting. Keep that handy. That will be emailed to all leaders. Of course, we have plenty of recovery tools we could use in this process. And I think the most important one is probably the one way at the bottom. We can't control our outer environment. Certainly, Zoom bombing belongs to our external environment. Remember that calm produces calm and temper produces temper in this situation. That's part of the try to stay calm and work through it, because any decision will steady you at that point. So what happens now? So you're the leader of that meeting and you may need to process what happened. So recommendation here is to get your team together, your co-leader, your assistant leader, tech aide, whoever else helps you with that meeting, to talk privately about the issue, what happened. The intent here is to not work it up, but to better prepare yourself for a situation like this if it happens again. Feel free to reach out to RI staff, your area leader for support, maybe even make a 5-minute phone call. And remember that this is not personal. This doesn't say anything about your ability as a leader for recovery meetings. This is really just because this is a bully and they were just looking for an opportunity. And of course, Zoom is a new opportunity for bullying. I want to thank you for your leadership. Of course, leaders do bear the most discomfort, especially in these kinds of situations. We do appreciate you and we want you to endorse yourself for all of your continued efforts. Thank you so much.